Hey y'all. Well, was this Tuesday? Tuesday cold and pretty sunset again. I've been pretty busy. Randy and I we've been putting in work in that pasture. Yesterday afternoon, I got out here in this it was an old servant house that turned into a cannon storage house. It was our grocery store growing up, but its years have not been kind to it. The floor's kind of suspect, and a lot of trash and rats have been in it, but found some treasures in here yesterday. This is something I had never seen. Most of y'all probably hadn't either. What about a war ration book from back in the day? Still got the stamps in it. I'm sure it was from World War II to prevent all the hoarding. Guess we could have used that last year on toilet paper, couldn't we? But lots of cool memories. A lot of Saturday evening posts in there that have made it through the years from 1963. And all that coupled with a quote I heard a while back, or later last week, from Churchill. Of course, it's been embellished a little bit, but in essence, it says the farther back you can look, the further ahead you can see. I guess I can see a pretty good ways with all the nostalgia around here. Notice that Saturday Evening Post, there's a stack of them in there and different headlines. It's kind of cool to reminisce. It's before my time. But the one that was on top jumped out at me. Had a picture of Queen Elizabeth, I guess Charles, riding in a car. But at the bottom, that's what caught me. It said, Asian flu, the mystery of the chronic plague, back in 63. Had a person that I know well comment. She's a little older, and she remembers that plague back in 1958, she said. But I think what struck me was the different resolve of a different time. Not to discount the current quote-unquote pandemic, they like to call it. I know it's serious, but a lot of folks have shut down and stopped living. I don't reckon they did that in the early 60s. They took precautions and kept moving on through. I think that's kind of what we're called to do. Randy has been over here the last few days, and we've got all the stumps pulled up finally. There's about 10 of them out here. I took the tractor this evening and smoothed out the holes. Big old hole right over there, the biggest bunch of trunks. Some old sweet gums have been cut back and kept growing and growing. And that old crater got me to thinking, with being 18 years ago today, the Columbia disaster. It littered this old pasture back then, and Mama was about gone at that point, but boy, she was sure confused at all the commotion out here in her pasture. That pine tree behind me to here. Of course, all of us have a story that lived in East Texas at that time. What a tragedy. We'll never forget. But we got to keep pushing. We got to keep looking forward, don't we? It's almost time to hook up the old cultivator and start setting rows out here. I stepped it off the other evening. I would say I'm in over my head, but it's probably a little easier than it has been in the past. That's about as far as I got with that tiller before Randy showed up with the tractor. But y'all know me, I'd have ended up doing it with a tiller if need be. But since we've got a little extra equipment, we're going to put about a little over an acre in peas and corn. I've got this spot here eyeing for a watermelon patch. We was digging. It's got a real good sandy soil to it. And the best thing is it's up close to the house, so Sissy will be a little bit more privy to when the raccoons come running about. So, but no, just springtime in Texas. And, we're getting ready for it. Not sure if we're going to do any potatoes. We're a week away from that, but we may skip that crop this year, to be honest with you. Had a little spot eyed over there near the pipeline, but don't believe we're going to pull that off this year and focus on some other things. Hate to cause a panic of any kind, but I knew it would happen. But seeds are short again this year, so if y'all are planning to get a garden, you'll be ahead of the curve if you find some seeds of the varieties that you want. You might pick them up. It's going to be a little bit in short supply this year. The demand has been straining the supply chain the last year or two. But we've got ours pigeonholed and ready. I've got tomatoes and peppers and all that coming up in the house for those crops that need to be ahead of the game. But it's getting a little cool out here without a jacket on. I'll have to fix that. But, anyway, I wanted to jump on here and say howdy, and that was sure some cool finds in that old servant house. And I came across an old Lone Star receipt, full-page invoice from my granddad that I didn't meet. He died in '69. But it was for a bag of dog food for $3.80. And then I found a receipt from Nacogdoches Florist, big old receipt. I think it was May 9th, 1964. So I was trying to figure out what that date might have been. I looked it up, and sure enough, Mother's Day was on May 10th. And this receipt was for a corsage, so I'm sure that was for my memo that he had bought at a different time. What struck me the most was, of course, Papa was a preacher and built a couple of different churches, but every piece of paper I came across in that old shed, whatever it was on the back of it, it had dozens of scriptures and sermon notes, and I guess it hit him and he'd have a piece of paper and he'd go to scribbling. So definitely treasures. Whatever the rats hadn't got to, we've saved it now. So it ain't gonna happen. It's all right to hold on to things as long as you're learning from them. Reconnected with a dear friend over the last week and a half and talking about things, and it was a different time of life, but boy, what a cherished blessing it is to reconnect with someone that's woven in the fabric of your life and means so much. So that's a good thing, isn't it? Spread the joy, spread the cheer. That's what we need to be doing. Sure is. Well, let me do a quick roll call. I'm getting a little chilly, and that sun's sinking fast, but sure like in this old pasture, I think we've got a sure enough truck garden spot now, don't we? It's going to be good. Quick roll call, and we'll call it an evening. Let me scroll back up, see what I can get through real quick. There's my buddy Randy, old classmate down Conroe Way, Huntsville area. Susan K. about the ration card. That is pretty. There's about 10 of them in there. I've got to get with my my cousin Anthony. Some of his, of course, my Memaw had brothers and sisters, and that was his grandpa, so he'll be tickled pink to see that. That's kind of cool stuff. Alexis says, Riverside, California. Hope you and sister are doing well. Can't wait to see the new garden when you're ready for one, of course. I did see something this year, and Randy agreed with me. Of course, we're inside the loop here in Nacogdoches. There's woods back there, but the other evening I walked out here, and I've seen a deer track or two along the way, but there was a small herd right back there in that wood line, about 6 of them. So that's the first time we've seen that many on this place. That didn't make me real happy with those peas coming on. Sissy's going to have to get back into garden control mode, I guess. She's taken up sleeping there toward the front of the house, which don't bother us none, but we're going to get her back here where she can do her job again, right? So looking forward to all that's coming ahead on that. There's Roy saying good afternoon. Little museum. Yeah, it definitely is. There's all kind of cool stuff in there. I've even got probably a 1950 Kirby vacuum cleaner in there that ain't no count, so it's going to go on to wherever it's going, but it ain't staying here. There's Andrew from Vermont. How are you, sir? Patricia saying howdy from North Carolina. Let's see who else is on here real quick. Miss Kimberly Ann, howdy to you. Trying to do this one-handed. I guess I'm doing all right. Let's see. Maria saying howdy. Caught me live. Yeah. Y'all look at that sunset. Isn't that something? There's Viola. Howdy from Kentucky to you. Well, from Texas here. You're from Kentucky. You know what I meant. There's my sweetheart Faith. My daughter up in South Carolina. She's doing good. Just started a new job. Super proud of her. Different industry. And I'll tell you one thing, that girl ain't got a scared bone in her body. And I guess some of it comes from me, but really admire her tenacity and willingness to chase success. Sometimes it reminds me of that old story. Back in the day, the criminal got caught stealing. That's what criminals do, I guess. And he went before the king, and there stood a gallows and a big old scary iron door. And the king looked at him. He said, "Well, sir, you're guilty. And the punishment, I'm going to let you choose. Either we'll hang you from that gallows, or you can take what's behind that big old iron door there with all them locks on it." Well, he studied that iron door for a minute. He said, "No, I don't want none of that. I'll take the gallows." So they got him all set up to hang. Right before they were going to drop the trap door, he looked at the king and said, "King, what's behind that door?" He said, "It don't matter now. I'm about to die anyway. I won't tell nobody." The king kind of chuckled. He said, "It's funny you ask that. Only a few have ever chosen that door because they're fearful. Behind that door is freedom." That's something sometimes we get so scary about the unknown that we don't take those chances. Well, not my girl. Faith is not scared to jump out there. So proud of her on that. Starting that new job. There's Carolyn. How are you? Miss Doris Moran. Hope I ain't skipped anybody. There's my daughter-in-law, Felicia. Got 2 grandbabies up that way. Hadn't seen one of them yet. He's going to be almost grown, seemed like, before I see him. Miss Bella. They're up in Illinois. That's my son Jeremy's wife. My Aunt Pat. Well, I guess it's family night tonight. They got snow up there. Well, we've had our dose of the snow for the decade down here, Aunt Pat, I believe. Oh, well. There's Sandra. Good to see you, ma'am. Well, I'm running out of daylight, y'all. I'm trying. There's Miss Margaret from San Antonio. Guess I need to quit rambling, don't I? Get your onions and taters in the ground. Yeah, Curtis, I don't know if I'm going to mess with those. I'm going for a little bigger crop this year. I may do some onions, but we're going to get it done pretty quick, ain't we? It's coming up quick. There's Miss Glenda and my good friend Ladina Howard down Temple Way. Robert's in Hope, Michigan. That's a good name for a town. Mr. Miles from Arlington. Kimberly's in Alabama. Dallas, Texas in the house. There's Jimmy. Sharon's in Houston, Texas. Miles, he said that a minute. I guess I'm double reading. There's from Arlington. I think that's just about everybody. It is. All right. Okay, we all button it up, and I guess we'll call it a night. And try to make a good difference somewhere. Maybe right where you're at. That's the only place you can affect anyway, isn't it? So I guess we start there. Y'all be the light. Talk to you later.